Hello everybody, it's Colin with the Knox County Fire Bureau, and today I'm in Seymour, and we're going to meet with Firefighter Kevin Nunn of the Seymour Volunteer Fire Department, and he's going to give us some good tips to help us stay fire safe outside our houses.
As you see firefighters out fighting fires in your communities and your areas, you may see firefighters wearing something similar to this. They might be in bigger, heavier bunker gear if they're running the trucks, or they might be in something lightweight like this if they're out chasing after a brush fire. But this is the type of gear that we would wear to make us a little more agile and a little more free to move. Being down here in Seymour as a volunteer, it's important for people to realize a few things during the summer months about the fires they start in fire pits, or if they start a brush pile burning. And we thought it would be very important to highlight some of those differences. One of those is, if you live in Seymour, you can live in Knox County. And Knox County has a year-round permitting process through their air quality management, and they want to make sure that you call in for a burn permit whenever you're burning. Whenever you go to burn a brush pile in your yard or on land, you have to call them or make an online application at all times throughout the year. If you live in Seymour and you live in Sevier County, it's a little different in that it's the same online permitting process. However, it's through burnsafetn.org, and it is only required between October 15th and May 15th. You have to call for a burn permit during those months. So during the summer, when a lot of people believe it's green and there's a lot of vegetation that's green out there, you don't have to get a permit. However, you do have to follow some basic guidelines and some basic understanding of fire and how it moves and what you need to be aware of when you put fire on the ground or when you start a fire in your yard. Today, what we want to talk about is what practices or what is all involved in keeping yourself safe outside, or keeping your house safe on the outside from fire and elements that are going to be in the environment rather than inside it. So one of the most enjoyable aspects of being outdoors is that you can have a fire, and so lots of people want to contain the fire and not just have it on the ground, and so they buy a commercially available type of fire pit like this, and you can get that at a local hardware store, and it will come with a set of instructions. It'll come with a manual, and it's important to kind of read through that manual and think of how, because this is going to be fire in this, what are the dangers that are going to be detailed out in that manual. And some of the things they're going to talk about are a level ground. This is a nice spot here that we have, and the manufacturer's recommendation is always going to be to have a fire pit on a level piece of ground. And this is not level up here. Even though it's kind of cleared of vegetation, it's probably not the most ideal spot for two reasons. One, not level, and two, we've got this overhanging trees. Once you start this fire and once you get it going, these trees, being combustible material, have a potential to ignite because they're right above the fire. And it's got a good distance away from any sideways, the distance away from the trees and the brush here, but the problem would be the overhanging limbs and branches. And the level ground. So we want to just reiterate that. Look at your manufacturer's guidelines and instructions. They are going to give you the most information, or the best information about being safe with your fire pit. One of the things you're also going to need is some sort of method of extinguishment. when you're done burning at the end of the night, this is one of the things that Smokey Bear always talked about was put your fire out before you go to bed, and don't just leave it and walk away. Have a method of extinguishment just in case something happens. When you call for a larger brush pile and you're burning that, when you call for a permit, one of the requirements is you have to have a method of extinguishment. And so this just follows this on a smaller scale. Is when you do decide to put yourself a nice fire in a fire pit, have some sort of a method of extinguishment, whether it be in a 5-gallon bucket or a garden hose. Those would be ideal things. This is a common example and a practice you see in East Tennessee is that people pile their brush or anything, any material that is burnable, and they set it all in one big location for them to set it on fire at some point in time. And unfortunately, this is not the practice that you want to have, because this leads to all types of bad examples or bad practices and bad outcomes. So you'll have this, if this were to be on fire, if this homeowner were to set this on fire, you'll get ember throw. And so the embers will come out of this pile and can potentially go to the neighbor's house, the neighbor's yard, or the neighbor's brush pile. And unfortunately, as that would catch fire, then that brush pile may be even closer to their house. So the permitting process or the brush pile regulations, or they're there for your safety. They're there so that this is not the type of stuff that people are burning. This would not fly in many counties in Tennessee. But like I said, even though that it is common practice and it's a lot of what we see as firefighters, we don't want to see people setting these on fire because of the ember throw, or what is a common problem is that the people will set this on fire, they'll leave for 30 minutes, or they'll go inside to get a drink of water or get lunch, and the fire will crawl across the ground and in dry conditions, and it will get as far as the neighbor's house and catch their siding on fire, which then climbs up the side of the house into the roof line or the attic, and then it eventually consumes the house. So, as we talked about the fire pits and following the manufacturer's guidelines or the instructions or the manual, which talks about keeping it so far away from your deck rails or your side of your house or your side of your shed for any type of combustible. Well, the same goes for this type of a grill. Whereas here we are on a kind of a closed-in area of this grill, and it's probably going to be recommended at least a foot, maybe 2 foot away per the manufacturer's instructions. And so this type of a grill is on rollers, and it's on a gas tether, and so it can be moved out into the middle of the deck area, and things can be moved out from away from it. And that's the important part about having that type of a connection. If it's a hard pipe connection to the bottom of your deck or anything, you want to get that tether so it can be moved away from all those types of combustibles. Most important things that we've been talking about today are the outside of your houses and how you can make those safe. And we all have our landscaping preferences. One of the popular things to do here in East Tennessee is pine straw, or the pine mulch. And this is a heavily flammable type of vegetation or dead material. It makes it look good, and it keeps the weeds down somewhat, but at the same time, any type of a flammable material, whether that be a cigarette butt or a neighbor's chimney without a spark arrestor, can get in here and burn this very quickly. And one of the principles of fire prevention on the outside of your house is called Firewise. And Firewise is a whole another topic in itself, but it really boils down to principles that you take in your landscaping to prevent your house from becoming a target of embers or it would burn down quickly. And one of those is a 1 foot to 3 foot barrier of non-combustible material up against your siding of your house. And so here in this example here, we have a 1 foot barrier that leads to a rock separation between the pine straw and the siding of the house. It would be very dangerous for all of this pine straw to be right up against the side of the house. And that 1 foot barrier is just enough to possibly save the house if there was embers or sparks inside that caught fire in the pine straw here. While that is a very positive example of good Firewise materials or good Firewise practices, then the next thing that you point to is these trees which almost contact the underside of the house, and in case of the larger one, goes over the top of the gutter line. These trees, if they're evergreens, and so any time of year, if they were to catch fire, or if the pine straw were on fire, they could build up enough heat to catch the evergreen on fire, which then touches the bottom of the house, which then could possibly burn down the house. Which, unfortunately, these are the types of things that we tell homeowners when they're asking about Firewise and Firewise practices. Definitely, wherever you live, investigate or do some research on your burn permitting process. That's going to save you some headache from your neighbors, from your fire department, from a lot of just headache in general. You want to take a look at that online process, and a lot of that can start at burnsafetn.org, and that website will direct you to your individual county's burn permitting process.